the alternate timeline where Tiny Tim found his second calling as a maestro of horror. Tiny Tim appears in several echo timelines where his career arc, personal legacy, or lifespan unfolded very differently. The most prominent strand in which he became something much more than a novelty act is where he found his second calling as a maestro of horror. Alternate timeline designation, echo timeline, 9-4V, horror host variant, Twilight Tim's Curio Cabinet. Point of historical divergence, 1972. In our timeline, Tiny Tim struggled with mainstream acceptance post Tiptoe Through the Tulips. In 1971, CBS seriously considers a Tiny Tim Halloween special. They drafted a full concept, strange music, storybook macabre tone. Tiny Tim as a whimsical, eerie narrator. Experimental variety segments. Ultimately, CBS rejected the special, in both timelines. This is the shared anchor point. Everything downstream changes based on where Tiny Tim goes next. In our timeline, Tiny Tim has no fallback opportunity. UHF stations aren't yet looking for a late-night personality. He returns to the novelty music circuit. By the mid-1970s, he's drifting, financially fragile, emotionally scattered. This eventually leads to his single horror role in Blood Harvest, 1987, a final flicker of what could have been. But in this alternate timeline, after being rejected from the planned CBS Halloween special, an emerging UHF cable station in Philadelphia hires him as a late-night horror host. A fledgling Philadelphia UHF station, WXPL 39, sees CBS's rejected packet. They love it because UHF is freer, weirder, and willing to experiment. They hire Tiny Tim immediately. This is the historical divergence point. CBS says no in both worlds. But in Echo Timeline 9V, someone else says yes. In this world, Tiny Tim finds a home, builds a cult following, creates Twilight Tim's Curio Cabinet. He becomes the gentle maestro of attic shadows, influences an entire generation of horror kids, becomes a cultural icon of the strange and tender. This moment alters everything. The show Twilight Tim's Curio Cabinet becomes a cult favorite running until 1987. He performs haunting renditions of 1930s music between horror film screenings. He later guest stars in Tales from the Crypt and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Often playing eerie yet kind-hearted characters. The show Twilight Tim's Curio Cabinet. Years active, October 1973, March 1987. Channel WLUR 29, Philadelphia-based UHF syndicate. Airtime, Saturdays at 11:30 p.m. Tagline, step in softly, stranger, but leave your shadow at the door. Format, each episode opens with Tiny Tim entering a candlelit Victorian room decorated like an attic crypt hybrid. He wears a black velvet smoking jacket, high Victorian collar, and faded clown shoes. He welcomes viewers with lines like, "Tonight, my darlings, a mirror will tell lies and you will believe everyone." Then he performs a haunting, echo-chambered cover of a 1920s or 1930s ballad. Think Rudy Vallee, Al Bowley, Ziegfeld Follies era. These are played in minor key mandolin arrangements or slow ukulele laments with eerie reverb, often while vintage footage of silent dancers or rotting flowers fades in behind him. Then the featured horror movie begins, often public domain or cult Euro horror flicks, intercut with Tim's cabinet interludes, vignettes where he opens a drawer or box, telling a 2-minute ghost story or reading an antique letter. Curio tales, tiny reenactments on mini-stages of strange folklore using dolls, broken music boxes, or shadow puppets. Farewell rituals. Each episode ends with Tiny Tim extinguishing a candle and delivering a soft benediction. Sleep gently and let your heart be the loudest thing you hear tonight. Music. Haunting renditions of 1930s songs. Tiny Tim reworked 1930s music with a dreamlike ghost hymn quality. The 3 most requested tracks from bootlegged fan LPs include Me and the Man in the Moon, sung over a reversed ukulele track, ending with childlike whispers looping beneath the melody. Gloomy Sunday, English-Hungarian hybrid, whispered verses punctuated with minor organ stabs and distant static thunder. I'll Be Seeing You, slowed to funeral pace, with broken radio crackles and reverb that stretches the final note into near silence. These songs are recorded live, one take on vintage analog gear. Fans today preserve the cassette recordings like relics. Additional notable curiosities. From Timeline 9V, Tiny Tim's lost 1979 Halloween special, Midnight with the Moonman, filmed in a Philadelphia warehouse. Never re-aired due to a station fire the following year. Only a grainy 5-minute reel survives. Tiny Tim in a mirrored mask, singing a slowed ukulele version of By the Light of the Silvery Moon. Horror collectors treat the reel like the Holy Grail. His iconic 1984 April Fool's episode, The Doll Who Dreamed of God. Tiny creates an entire 22-minute puppet play. The doll breaks the fourth wall to ask viewers, who dreams for you when you're tired? Fans still quote it today in that world's equivalent of horror forums. Tiny Tim and Elvira crossover, 1986. He guest hosts with Elvira for a 2-night block. She teases him affectionately. You're like a haunted music box in a thrift store I'm too scared to open. Their chemistry becomes folklore-level beloved. The Mirror Room Incident, 1980. A whispered about moment from a live broadcast. Tiny is speaking to the audience near one of the set's mirrors. His reflection lags behind by half a second for his whole speech. Fans debate whether it was an intentional trick, a production glitch, or something else. Bootlegs slow it down frame by frame. Tiny Tim's only horror film lead role, The Man Who Sang to Shadows, 1983. A low-budget, dreamlike psychological horror film. He plays a grieving widower who moves into an abandoned boarding house, only to discover the shadows whisper in response to his singing. Cult film, hard to find. The audio track is rumored to contain faint EVP-style murmurs. Sadly, Blood Harvest, 1987, was never developed in this strand, which would have been a perfect fit. Comic book tie-in, 1985. Tim's Cabinet of Curios, published by a small Philadelphia indie press. Each issue adapted one of his interlude ghost stories. Issue number 7, The Girl in the Seed Catalogue, is extremely rare. Appearance on David Letterman, 1982, one of the most unexpected cross-timeline treasures. Tiny performs Gloomy Sunday, live with only a single candle on stage. The audience, expecting comedy, falls dead silent. Letterman says, "That was beautiful and strangely unsettling." The 1987 finale episode. Fans still get emotional about this last moment. Tiny sits at the piano, the attic crypt room darker than usual. He whispers, "Every shadow is just a light that remembers where it came from." He extinguishes the final candle. Broadcast ends. Legacy and cultural impact. Crypt Keeper guest role, 1992. In this timeline's Tales from the Crypt, Tim plays a shy undertaker whose dolls start whispering the sins of the dead. The episode is a fan favorite. Tales from the Crypt, 1992. Episode title, The Ventriloquist's Wake. Air date, October 23, 1992, Season 5, Episode 11 in this timeline's extended sequence. Guest star, Tiny Tim as Mortimer Pinks, the doll maker undertaker. Summary, set in a crumbling Victorian funeral parlor on the outskirts of New Orleans. The ventriloquist's wake centers on Mortimer Pinks, a timid and soft-spoken undertaker who crafts wooden funerary dolls for each body he buries. These are no ordinary dolls. They're believed to absorb the final whispers of the dead. When a corrupt city official dies under suspicious circumstances, the doll made in his likeness begins speaking to Mortimer, revealing secrets that were meant to be buried. As more bodies arrive, each doll unveils a twisted truth, bribes, betrayals, and buried crimes. Mortimer is soon haunted not just by the dolls, but by the guilt of keeping silent for so long. Tiny Tim delivers a hauntingly gentle performance, soft, trembling, yet deeply mournful. His final monologue, whispered as dozens of dolls line the shelves behind him, became a signature quote in this timeline. "We all leave a little puppet behind, stitched from what we hid." The episode ends with Mortimer vanishing into the crypt beneath the parlor as the dolls begin to chant his name in unison. Legacy. Considered one of the show's most psychologically eerie episodes, the soundtrack, minimal organ and creaking wood, and Tim's performance are cited in horror retrospectives as a rare tonal masterpiece. Are you afraid of the dark? 1994. He guest stars as the Librarian of Lost Hours, a kindly ghost who helps a child escape a time loop. Are You Afraid of the Dark? 1994. Episode title, The Tale of the Librarian of Lost Hours. Air date, November 5th, 1994, Season 5, Episode 5. Guest star, Tiny Tim as the Librarian. Summary: 12-year-old Morgan is always late. Late to school, late to practice, late for life. One night, while trying to finish a book report after midnight, he stumbles into the wrong section of his local library and is pulled into the Hour Archive, a ghostly repository where all lost time is stored in dusty books. There he meets the Librarian of Lost Hours, a whispery figure in a moth-eaten suit who floats more than he walks. Played by Tiny Tim with a melancholic kindness, the Librarian explains that time loops form when people lose too much time, and Morgan has lost more than most. Each book in the archive contains a moment someone wasted, forgotten birthdays, ignored calls, abandoned dreams. To escape, Morgan must retrieve the page that contains the moment he gave up and relive it. The journey forces him to confront his self-doubt and find the courage to change his future. Tim sings a ghostly refrain as the hourglass empties. The hours we waste are never truly gone. They wait for us to notice them again. The final scene shows the Librarian waving gently from the shadows, fading as Morgan walks back into real time. Legacy. The episode became a cult favorite, often cited by fans as one of the most emotionally impactful. A slowed-down version of Tim's closing song is used in fan edits to this day. Death and Afterlife, 1996. Tiny Tim passes in 1996, same as in our timeline, but in this world his coffin was shaped like a music box, and the broadcast of his final Halloween episode became a cult mourning ritual among fans. Why all of this didn't happen here? In both timelines, CBS rejected Tiny Tim's 1971 Halloween pilot. The tone was too strange, too quiet, too unsettling for primetime television. But here's the difference. In our world, that rejection closed the door. UHF stations were still finding their footing in 1971. None of them were looking for a host like Tiny Tim, so he returned to novelty stages, drifting between gigs, and only brushing horror once more in the 1987 slasher film Blood Harvest, a glimpse of the dark magic that might have been. But in Echo Strand 9-Phi, the divergence comes in 1972, when a small Philadelphia UHF station saw potential where CBS saw risk. They offered Tiny Tim a home, and he became a cult legend of midnight television. One rejection, two worlds, two very different lives. Across the multiverse, so many artists become echoes of themselves, ripples that fade when the spotlight moves on. But in Echo Timeline 9V, Tiny Tim didn't fade. He transformed. He became the keeper of 1,000 forgotten shadows, a guardian of attic doors and flickering candles, a voice that could make even a broken music box feel alive again. And maybe that's the truth of this echo, that some souls aren't meant for the bright stage, but for the warm glow of a single lamp singing to the dreamers, the lonely and the ones who stay awake just a bit too long. If you enjoyed this look into the worlds beside our own, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the story forward. And as always, sleep gently, and let your heart be the loudest thing you hear tonight.